Hello, everyone. It's Fred again from Notes of a Nomad. Today we talk about traveling because today is a week from when I'll have been arrived in California. It's the first time I'm able to travel since I arrived back from Australia at the end of January of 2020. Wow, it's almost 2.5 years since I managed to travel. So I'm looking forward to this trip. And I thought I'd talk a little bit about traveling. Now, I've always thought that traveling is one of the best educations and encourage some of my children, give it a try and see how you like it. And some of them have done extensive traveling. I've done some of them have done a lot more than I have. So all in all, I think it can be a great education. However, in a recent discussion with a few people, some people said, I don't want to travel. Why would I want to travel? I go and I stay in a hotel and eat in a fancy restaurant and spend lots of money, and I don't get it. I can eat in a fancy restaurant here. And there's a lot of truth to that. And also I tend to agree. I don't like that either. And I really do not enjoy touristy things and tourist traps. I've had enough of that. I recall going on a bus trip in Hong Kong, and they take you from one shopping place to another shopping place to see if you want to buy something. Tourists, souvenirs. That's not my thing. But I do enjoy traveling. It's mainly because of the people I meet. And I will not stay in a fancy hotel. I mean, why do that? It's like staying in a fancy hotel in Canada. So, for example, when I was in Singapore, I stayed in a hostel, and the hostel was full of people from India who come to work in Singapore. And I met some really fascinating people in there. And I can assure you, the hostel, well, the room I had didn't have its own bathroom. You had to walk down the hall and use the common bathroom, etc. It was not fancy, but I meet interesting people. The same in South Africa. I stayed in a hostel in Cape Town, and that was fantastic because we met people coming and going, and they'd come from around the world, and sometimes, of course, you meet some wonderful South Africans too in these places. One of the best trips and tours that I ever took was in Istanbul, and I think there's a lot about that you might find interesting. Number one, this was called the Other Tour. It's not the tourist tour. It's two brothers, and what they were doing was they decided to take you on a day in their life. So they fetch you in a van driven by a friend of theirs. And on this trip, it was my daughter and myself and a family, the husband and wife and three children. These three children were homeschooled, and their parents were taking them through Europe. And that was another reason I think they went on the same trip as we did. This was not inexpensive. It wasn't okay. We go from one church to another. What we did was they took us for breakfast in one of their favorite restaurants. We got on a friend's boat and went over the Bosphorus to Asia, because they're in Europe and Asia, that's the border there, and had ice cream. Then off the friend's boat, we had a Turkish bath, and there was no tourists in there. This is where the Turks have their bath. And that was an experience. What else did we do? Oh, we saw where the Kurds live, which is now, maybe you could call it slums, but it's not where they live with the rest of the Turkish people. The Kurds and the Turks don't get along, but we went to that area. We went to a school, and that's unusual because the Greeks and the Turks don't get along, but they do have a school that we visited. And we had dinner in their mother's apartment, and she cooked us a wonderful meal. So we had lunch with their mother. And in the evening, we went to a restaurant where people were getting married. So we sort of sat and watched and got involved in the music and the Turkish music and the dancing in a wedding. So there was some of the examples that was seeing how the people lived and their lives and what it was like in Istanbul. That was interesting. It's the people. So I'm hoping my next trip after California will be to California to go and visit my daughter and her friends. And I've actually got to know some of the neighbors there. And I look forward to seeing them again because some of them have knocked on the door of my daughter's house and said, when is Fred coming? And I'm looking forward to seeing them again. So it's all about the people for me. And if it's history, for example, in Ethiopia, I enjoyed seeing some of the, meeting some of the people there, went to a restaurant, and I think I showed you the dancing I did in Ethiopia. And that was an Ethiopian restaurant taken by some people I had met there. But that I think is interesting, but that's not for everyone. Other people, why, if you want to enjoy a nice restaurant or a nice hotel, have a staycation. You can have a great time in a hotel in your own city and just go to the spa and the fancy restaurant in the hotel. And you don't have to go through all of this passports and waiting in airports. Just go to a hotel close to you where you live. And that can be a wonderful break. And try perhaps a restaurant that you wouldn't normally with maybe different food from a different culture. So it doesn't have to be long distance travel. It can be just in your own local area. Canada, for example, has some amazing places. I could, having traveled for about 3 months when I came back from South Africa and just left from the West Coast in a small little recreational vehicle, traveled up north to the Yukon, to Northwest Territories, to Inuvik on the Dempster Highway, and then all the way across Canada to Newfoundland and St. John's. So it's possible to have a wonderful vacation without having to travel. But it's, for me, it's not the tourist traps, it's the people that I meet and maybe see some of the local history and find out what the culture is like there. So with that, I will say adios, au revoir. Wishing you, your family and friends, from Fred and Notes of a Nomad. Till next time, when it should be from California. Bye for now.